So welcome back, guys. As you can see, we've kind of done a rebrand on the channel. We're now going to be Chaotic Respawn as opposed to Mediocre Gamer Man. Reason for that is I didn't like the sound of Mediocre Gamer Man. It didn't roll off the tongue. It wasn't a fun name to say. And while it is kind of what I am, it's not what I wanted the brand to be for this channel. And so I've kind of changed that. I've got a logo for now. It'll probably change over time. I'm not gonna lie. I used AI generation for a lot of stuff to determine like how I want the logo to look, and I'm gonna go in and actually try to make my own logo. I just have to have the time to do it. But what I want to do with this channel going forward is kind of just delve into my ADHD and my gaming. So I'm all over the place. I'll play a game for 2 weeks nonstop, nothing else, and then I'll switch over and play another game for like a day or half a day. Some days I'll play different games at 1 hour for several hours if I have time. Just my ADHD, I have to something different sometimes. Sometimes it's always the same. So that's kind of where I want this channel to go, and I want you to enjoy the ride. So there is going to be some structure involved. I want to do reviews on free games, on games that are on sale, things of that nature. I want to do like gaming and tech reviews, which I'm going to start researching for next week, and then I'll start next week. But for now, I want to start with this. It's a review on Brotato. It's currently free on the Epic Game Store, and it's free until December 5th, 2024. So as of today that this video will launch, you have 3.5 days to pick it up. And so this is kind of my review and my thoughts and takes on this game, and whether or not it's actually worth you downloading it, which I mean, it's free, so there's not really a whole lot of, but if it's not free and then you see it on sale, do you weigh the pros and cons of whether or not this is a game you actually want to purchase? So that's what this is. I hope you enjoyed the review. Definitely like, comment, subscribe down below. I'll probably say that again at the end of this, but I'm trying to do better. I've actually written a script I'm going to go by so that I actually can keep my thoughts in order. I'm going to try and structure this channel a lot better than it's been before. So this is my attempt. Tell me what you think, and I'll say that again at the end. But anyway, let's get started. Now, as a free game, I usually don't go in with a high bar. However, this game was already on my radar due to some things that I'd already heard, so I thought, let's download it, let's try it out, let's review it. Brotato boasts an overall positive on Steam, and honestly, it's for good reason. As a standard top-down arena shooter roguelike, it has a lot to offer. Now, roguelites are a type of game that I love to burn time in personally. Each new game is a test of what you've learned before, along with the fight against random drops. The first wave starts at 20 seconds and has you killing an enemy, like killing one enemy at a time. But at the end, you get to choose a power-up from an assortment of randomly generated options. There's like stat bonuses. And then another screen has items and weapons that allow you to purchase with materials you get during the wave from killing enemies. Now, each wave adds 5 seconds, caps at a total of 60 seconds of mayhem. And this, in a nutshell, is the simple yet effective recipe for this amazing dish. Now, at the start, you have 5 characters to choose from. You have well-rounded, brawler, crazy, ranger, and mage. Now, each of these has different abilities and weapon types, damage types, even stats and items. As you play, win or fail, you unlock more and more character options. Each of them is more wild and strategically interesting than the rest. Some damage you over time, some add a large starting boost to HP and lifesteal, while others limit what bonuses do, what different modifications do, and how effective they are for you. Now, I found a surprising amount of depth in just the character selection screen, and I only played for 3 hours. So honestly, it became somewhat overwhelming once you unlock like 10 or so characters, and at this point, like I said, I'd played for like 30 minutes at this point, and I'd already unlocked like 10 characters. And I learned next to nothing about the strategy involved, because I was just going in and playing. Like at this point, I had just learned how to pick a decent weapon for whatever build I was going with. Now, to talk about the weapons, just wow, really, that's all I can say. There's so many, with so much involved. Each weapon has attributes which play into the stats and items you picked with each of your successive waves. You pick a strong item that does not fit into these stats and items that you've accrued, and watch it just weigh you down. But picking a weapon that aligns to choices you've made, and you watch the next wave just melt before you. It's glorious to watch how much stronger you get just by picking the right weapon and making the right choices. Now, I only played for just over 3 hours for this review. I have yet to use all the weapons. Um, Even with 6 weapon slots per character, some of them have 12. I think one of them has 12. One of them only has one, and I think one of them you can't equip any weapons. Like I said, every character is different. But with 6 weapon slots per character, I have not experienced a few. There's a few of them that I just honestly have not picked yet. And there's even more that you unlock as you go along by beating the game with different characters. Um, and when playing for 3 hours, one of the things that I wanted to do was I wanted to pick different weapons going through. So for a lot of it, I chose different weapons, even though they may not have aligned to my build, just to see what that weapon was like. And I still haven't used all of them. Each build that I did was different, which, considering that I chose the well-rounded character for the first hour and a half that I played, that's quite a lot, right? With all that being said, after 3 hours, I finally, after like really paying attention, I discovered how to manage your stat progression, weapon choices, and items to align into a cogent playstyle. You can view your stats between waves and even during waves to determine gaps and strength in your builds. You can kind of figure out what you need to tweak as you're going along. If you've got some enemies or something that you're not quite able to do, or you're getting hit too hard, or you're not healing fast enough, or your HP is getting drained too quick, you can look at these stats in the middle of the wave and go, okay, I need to pay attention and look for these items at the end of the wave. And there are reroll options. They cost, barring some items, but they do cost. So there is that. So like the strategy involved is pretty interesting. Um, Now, determining the gaps of strength to your build, like I said, is crucial to getting to the higher waves. And once you're ready to face a boss, if you're not properly prepared with a decent build, you're going to have a hard time, because some bosses require, and the bosses are actually different. Some of them are, and I've only seen 2 so far, but I think there's more. But the 2 that I've seen require different strategies to beat them, but a really good build can beat both. So that's why it's important to kind of pay attention to your strengths and the gaps in your build. I am going to say, like I said before, it's kind of with a heavy heart. I've got to admit, I was defeated every time that I played while attempting to like record this review. Um, Now this game was fun in a hard way, right? So I went back after I had recorded a bunch for this review. I went back and played again for about another hour and a half, and I actually beat it a couple of times because I was paying attention to the build. So it isn't too hard, but it isn't too easy either, and we'll get into that later on in the review. Like others in this category, it is an enjoyable time killer, but it's got nuance and style that a lot of the games I don't think have. So let's talk about the score, because that's really what this video is about, right? I have decided to rate these games on a 10-point scale, rating different aspects and then taking an average. Now these aspects are story hook, graphics, sound, controls, difficulty, replayability, and lastly, if there's anything about this game that's innovative, it can get some extra points that are added on to the actual, like, the total before the average. In innovation, there's only 5 points available, but you know, it can help a game that may lack in some areas, but is really innovative in others. So, because that really matters when you're playing a game, like a really cool, innovative game, that's kind of an important aspect to some of these things. So, but let's talk about each one of these individually, and I'll in the background I'll show some of the stuff that has to do with that particular metric. Firstly, story hook. This is an obvious one, right? Does the game present a story that is likely to engage the average player? Now, sure, mind-numbing games are great, but a game which pulls you in and makes you wonder at each turn, now that is a work of art, right? Those are the games that, like, I mean, just think about games like Skyrim and Baldur's Gate and the Final Fantasy series and games like Last of Us. These are games that pull you in with the story, and it makes you want to keep going because you're interested to see what's going to come next. Brotato doesn't have a story as far as I can find. It's a simple game. Choose a character, kill stuff, power up, kill more stuff, win. It works, but if you're looking for an engaging story with cool twists and daring heroes, well, this isn't it, right? Now, because this game does not have a story, nor does it even attempt to provide any hook other than kill, loot, kill, honestly, I can't judge it based on the story. It wouldn't be fair. to say it's just a 0 in story because it doesn't have one. This game doesn't have a story because it wasn't built to have a story. Story is not why you play this game. So I'm going to cut this out of the metric, and I'm only doing that in cases like this where the game obviously has no story. It doesn't attempt to have a story. It doesn't care about a story. Story is not why this game was built. In those cases, in those very rare cases, I can't see a good reason to include this metric in the overall score. So in this case, there's no rating. It's not going to affect anything. We're going to move on to graphics. With that being said, graphics are not a make it and break it point for me. It has to be pretty to look at to some degree. And I love the old pixel style games of like early Nintendo games, even the old Atari games. I mean, they have a nostalgic beauty to them. So my rating of graphics will be based on the style of game itself and how it was made to look, right? Brotato's art style is actually a lot of fun. Like I found myself really enjoying the nuances of the characters. Now, the characters don't look exactly like potatoes, and an argument can be made for them appearing a tad egg-like. I've seen that in a couple of different places, but it's fun and whimsical, so I'm going to kind of give it a pass on that. The game is just mayhem of the highest order, and the cartoonist visuals match its absurd energy. I mean, though it has some minor details which aren't as polished as I would like, mainly doing with like, you understand what everything is except for some of the drops. Like the materials, I don't know what the heck they are. I'm assuming it's just random materials. The food, which you've probably seen drop up here, not entirely sure what they are. The crates that drop, I didn't realize they were crates for a while. I mean, I kind of figured they were like boxes of some sort, but it took a minute before I realized that's what it was. It actually took an item telling me that it was crates to be like, oh, okay, well, that's crates. It makes sense. You just couldn't tell. I mean, it looked like a box with green on it, and that's all it had. So honestly, even though, like I said, it doesn't have all the polish that I'd want, the game is exactly what it aims to be, and I respect that. So I'm going to give this a solid 9 out of 10 for graphics, because it's exactly what it wants to be. It has a couple of little issues here and there, mostly my own personal preference, not anything else, right? So 9 out of 10. Now next, we're going to go on to sound. Now, speaking of sound, I generally play these style of games without sound because I'm watching a show or I'm in public without headphones and I'm on my phone. But to review this game, I played with the sound on for the first hour or so. Now, this game has a lot of noise, but it's not all bad, right? The background music was fun and upbeat, but it's really just background ambiance for the shooting and looting, and that's where the main noise comes from, all of the death. Every one of your 6 weapons, turrets, mines, anything else that happens on the screen makes a noise. At first, this is nothing excessive, but by wave 15 or so, it overshadows the background music. You can't even hear it, really. I mean, it's like sporadic in between all the shooting and death. And so, at least to me, it was a little overwhelming. Each weapon makes a different noise, and it amounts to sort of an explosive discord in my headphones. I mean, if you enjoy that noise, then it's great. But for me, it was a little tedious after an hour and a half, and I turned the noise to a minimum, if not silent, and just watched it show in the background. I'm not saying the noise is bad. It's just not good. It is noise. So for sound, I give Brotato 6 out of 10. It is an arena shooter. It sounds like an arena shooter until you turn the sound off. The background music is what puts this above a 5, because the background music is actually a lot of fun, and the sounds are good. It's just a lot of sounds. Like, I didn't hear any sounds, and I'm like, oh, you know, they all sounded what they should sound like, and they sounded fun. But there's so much of them that it was just, I had to take the score down a little bit. Okay? Now that we have that out of the way, the rest of the metrics are really where Brotato shines. The controls are great. Movement is a touch slow in the beginning, but honestly, that's the point. If you level speed, it actually makes a noticeable difference. Dodging bullets and charging monsters is both difficult and enjoyable. Now, there are only a few controls to be fair, since movement is really the only control you need. Weapons attack automatically, so all you have to do is kind of run a gun. You can play the game one-handed, really. Now, while simplistic, the controls are what you need them to be. They're responsive. Honestly, I have nothing else to say about them. It's literally, you can play this with a D-pad. So there's not a whole lot to the controls. They're not complicated. They're just overly simplistic, which is the only reason why I'm giving this an 8 out of The lack of controls is ironically the reason why I had to deduct a couple of points. There's nothing to it, nothing interesting. No special abilities. There's nothing beyond. If you're playing this on the Switch, you can have just one remote and you can be doing something with the other hand and play it. Honestly, you don't even really need to pay attention to it at certain points. So the controls are great, but there's not a lot of control there. So, like I said, 8 out of 10. Difficulty is probably a weird metric for a review. I get it. But I feel that how hard a game is determines whether or not it's worth playing in relation to the other scores. So this score is different in that it really matters what the rest of the scores are as to whether or not difficulty matters. If a game has an amazing story, smooth controls, an award-winning soundtrack, and visuals that look so real you'd swear it's live action, but it's either so difficult it is responsible for controller shortages on Amazon, or it is as easy as playing tic-tac-toe with yourself, then honestly it's almost feels like it's a chore to play. A game too challenging is terrible for immersion, unless it's built around dying, which is honestly a hard style to get right. Souls games have gotten it down, but a lot of games in that genre don't do it properly, and it just feels like building around death is clunky, and I don't appreciate that. So, on the other hand, a game that's too easy just holds no appeal to me, honestly. There are some people who love story difficulty in games, and I respect that. I've played a few games, Silent Hill in particular. I played on story mode just because of the story without distractions. It's a really good way to play certain really hard games, or games where the story is like the main focus, like Last of Us, Silent Hill, like some Final Fantasy games. Playing it on a super easy mode really allows you to just focus on the story, and that is perfectly fine. I love that. I've played a lot of games that way and enjoyed them. But I really, really enjoy a game that's difficulty makes you feel as though you're accomplishing something while playing it. So now that I've gone off topic for a moment, let's come back to Brotato, right? The game is difficult, but not prohibitively so, okay? I enjoyed learning the stats and weapon types to make a viable build. Each playthrough requires careful consideration to optimize the character, but it does not require hours of methodical number crunching to be effective. It balances on that line quite nicely. Some of the characters provide a better challenge, depending on stats and items and whatnot, and some add a simpler playstyle. Well-rounded is a simpler playstyle. The first 5 you have, really, are pretty simplistic. The rest of them add complexity and depth. So, and while all of that's different, each one of those characters can appeal to different players. And players that are like me that are completionists are going to want to try every single character, and every single character plays a little bit different. So it really adds this difficulty and nuance that I really enjoy in games like this. Now, score-wise, I'm going to give this game an easy 9 out of 10. I think its difficulty is perfect for the type of game it is. It can be a touch difficult at times, but it is very approachable. And for someone who just wants like a mind-numbing experience, they can play through it and have a good time without a whole lot of like metagaming. But if you want to like dive in and start beating it with other characters, the difficulty changes. It can spike with some, it can lower with others. Requires differences and challenges that each other character doesn't. And I think that's a really well done way of building a game like this. Finally, we get to the last main score, replayability. Okay, this game has that in spades. With an impressive 62 characters, including the DLC, and 177 items when you include weapons. I couldn't find an exact count of weapons and an exact count of like choosable items, but I could find that there are 177 total items, weapons and standard items together. Each playthrough has random options, a co-op mode, an endless mode, and this game will keep players, especially completionists, busy for a long time to come. After 3 hours, I know that I have not seen everything this game has to offer. There's some things that you can't get unless you beat it with different characters. In fact, after I played through after the review, after I recorded the review, I beat it with a character and unlocked a new item. So I haven't even found that item. I found a legendary weapon during that playthrough or during the next playthrough that I hadn't even seen yet. So there's a lot of things that you discover as you play. So with that said, I'm going to give this score a 10 out of 10 in replayability. I am reticent to give a perfect score on anything. I have high standards. But this game is perfect for those times when nothing else seems to hit the mark. Load up Brotato, try new runs, see what unlocks you get, find a new item or use a character you haven't tried yet. Honestly, there's so much to do. So yes, I think this game is honestly worthy of that 10 in replayability. Now for the bonus, innovation. While Brotato certainly didn't invent the arena top-down shooter wheel, it did add rubber to it. It did what every other game in the genre did before, but Brotato modified it and gold-plated it. It took every good aspect of an arena shooter and added extra items and replayability. So I'm definitely going to give this a 2 out of 5 for innovation. While it obviously didn't create a whole new genre, it didn't create a whole new method of playing, it didn't really do anything new, it gold starred the things that it did. And I think that in and of itself is innovation. So with that, those extra 2 points added to the total before averaging, we're going to give Brotato a score of 8.8. It's a great game that I think anyone should try. It's currently, like I said, free on the Epic Game Store until December 5th, 2024. And if you find it anywhere for sale, it's definitely worth a pickup. And if you really like this style game and it's something you want to get now because of this review, go on ahead and do it. Now, I would definitely say to look for it on sale, but if you drop the money to get it, you're not going to be disappointed if this is the kind of game you play. I really think this is a wonderful game. All right, everybody, thank you so much for watching this review. I plan to do more reviews of games in the future. Of course, my goal is to review each free game as they come onto the Epic Game Store. But of course, time may prohibit that. I may have to pick and choose if multiple come on at a time. Now, I would like to eventually, as I start getting a better feel for how this is going to work and start getting more efficiency in my schedule, I would like to also review some games as they are added to the Xbox Game Pass, PlayStation Plus, and the Nintendo Switch online service. Each of these have new games that come out on a regular basis, and they are all subscription-based services that allow you to play hundreds of games for free. And so I would like to start reviewing games as they appear on that. It's kind of a way to show people what's available with these services and whether or not these games are worth playing. Because I know it's a lot. You're bombarded with a lot of choices when these services just throw new games at you. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do my best, but for now, I want you to definitely like, comment, subscribe down below. If you think my metrics could use some work, or you like them, you like the metrics and how they're organized, definitely let me know. I really love that kind of feedback. I'm always up for modifying my channel to better suit the community. That's what this is for. Because there's a lot of channels like this out there, but I want to find a niche for people like me who play a lot of just random games and are really interested in trying new things. That's where I would like to fall into, and I don't see a lot of that out there that are current, and I want to start doing current reviews. So if you've tried Brotato or you have other review suggestions, definitely let me know in the comments below. And until next time, have a wonderful rest of your day.